The Australian Prime Minister said recently on the G20 Summit discussions, it's important to note that they've got some fair dinkum issues they are trying to sort out.
Hello and welcome to the Mark and Pete Show. Yes, this week we debate the G20 Summit. Trump smashes all the China. Well, as many people have seen at the G20 Summit this time, that the US and China have seemingly agreed to resume trade talks. Now, in some people's thoughts, this will ease a long-standing row that has contributed to a global economic slowdown. But as we see on the surface, it appears as though US President Donald Trump and China's President Xi Jinping reached an agreement and everybody's happy. But actually, when you look at what's happening at the top table, perhaps things aren't quite all they seem. Raising glasses at the G20 summit, leaders banquet, and nothing seems finer. The knives are sharpened as hopes plummet when cracks appear in the china. Yes, well, it does appear as though, Clergyman Pete, there are some positive things that have come from the G20 summit, but actually, when people have been gulping after their dinners, really, when you look deep down, actually, has anything really changed?
Well, this is the troubling and, I suppose, also delightful thing about the way that Donald Trump handles negotiations. He seems to handle it. This is my take on it. I don't know that much about the business scene in New York, but I mean, you'd be closer to that because you at least know the business scene. But it seems to me that he's operating as a head of state like a businessman would. He's making deals in a different way than's normally done by government to government. And so it was. I mean, just to give you an example, it was reported recently in a Forbes article that the point that I just made was made there. And the article written by Jack Nasher, writing for Forbes, he says, Donald Trump's negotiation style has been consistent throughout his real estate career. He never rules out total failure of the deal. He routinely receives generous concessions, and he has emotional outbursts that are frequent. The Trump walkout is proverbial. So he uses sort of a mixture of bullying and decisiveness, or perhaps a mercurial nature, such that people don't know whether they're coming or going, and they end up being bamboozled by him. And I suppose his handling of tariffs is all part of that. He's threatening tariffs, he puts them on, but, I might just get rid of them. Who knows? Who knows? He says, who knows? And so the news at the moment that he's not. Is he removing them? I can't remember the exact.
Well,
I'll hand over to you if you've got the latest
into
news.
His tactics, yes. Because just to answer that particular point, on the surface, what he has said is that, and remarkably, and I know many people will probably be sort of somewhat surprised here, to your point, he has offered some significant concessions here. But really, what are those real concessions? Because after the meeting on the sidelines of the G20 summit, it appears as though that he has claimed that he will be not adding tariffs to those Chinese imports. But, and this is the caveat, he also said he would continue to negotiate with Beijing for the time being, meaning that actually he's sending out somewhat conflicting messages. And so I think this is really playing into the businessman, isn't it? The businessman tactics. Because I wanted to ask you, Claude and Pete, coming back to the China's president as well, there are a big contrast between Donald Trump and China's President Xi Jinping, because China's president has now elected for life. And that does change the game somewhat. Whereas Donald
Trump's got a few years. Yeah.
He's only got, well, certainly in this term, he's got just over a year. And even if he were to get re-elected, he would have another 4 years. So let's say he's just around 5 years.
Sure, yeah.
Now that's very different when you're having to deal and trade with somebody who's ensconced in a position such as Mr. Xi Jinping. I think that there is something slightly sinister here because, as everybody knows, one of the big issues is around security. And as we know with the Huawei situation, one of the big tech giants that are actually is a global outfit, and they've been pushing trade through the United States and throughout Europe. And Donald Trump himself has made a lot of points about the security issue. I can't see how that's going to go away if you're trying to
Yeah.
negotiate with somebody who is quite adamant on not changing their views in China and the way that they handle business and control business. Whereas in the United States, it's a totally different game. And so really you've got quite a contrast in terms of the two different styles. But yes, when it comes to Donald Trump, he's very clever because on the surface you think he's erratic, but to your point, he's really just trying to be beguiling.
Yes, and the way I see it from my experience in China now, I'm not a businessman. I don't have direct experience, but I did spend some time basically upgrading a businessman's English over in China. I was teaching English from scratch to children, but these businessmen I was working with could speak English pretty well, and I was trying to help them to speak at a negotiation level, I suppose. They mainly worked in shipping. Now, when I was speaking to them about the different culture, I saw that actually something of what I'd assumed about Chinese culture did seem to be true. Some things were way of the mark. Once you actually go there, you realise that they're very different from as advertised. But one thing is right in that shame and face are very important. So you don't want to be publicly shamed, and you want to save face. You want so if Trump can make it look as though for Xi Jinping it's going very bad, and then he gives him a tremendous face saving. I think if you do this, if you're going to look great, he may well go for it.
Well,
I think that will be his weakness compared with
well,
Trump.
it is quite possible. But now the US and China have been fighting over a damaging trade war for the past year at least. And what Trump has accused China of is stealing intellectual property and forcing the US firms to share trade secrets in order to do business with China, which in turn has said that US demands for business reform were unreasonable. Now, this feud has escalated. So, Clergyman Bean, I'm going to ask you some questions, and I would like to conjure up some numbers here, because how do you think that the US-China trade war has escalated? Right. So if we take certainly the last year, so we're going to start in 2018. What do you think in US dollars, and I will tell you it is in the billions, just to give you a clue, what do you think the US tariffs were on China? And what do you think the China tariffs were in July 2018?
Is this
this is collective, of course.
Is this an amount of money?
Not a percent. Money. And it's a guide.
Right. I was when you started speaking, I assume you were talking about percentage. You're not talking about percentage.
No. We get an actual dollar amount.
Okay, dollar amount.
It's just slightly more than you earn in a year.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm thinking like it's going to be a large amount. I was starting with that. I think you're going to agree. So I'm going to say this year. For US products,
in 2018. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, 2018. Sorry, right. Okay. Right. So the full year that you've got. I'm going to say $100 million.
I think. Well, sadly that is a drop in the ocean.
Really? Oh.
Yes.
So
the irony,
this is the tariffs I'm talking about.
The two numbers balance in 2018 balance perfectly. We're in the billions.
Well, that's what I said. I said 100 billion.
No.
100 billion with a but.
Now you're being
the listeners
irrational.
will bear me out. You thinking I'm saying million? I'm saying billion.
34 billion.
34 billion. Okay.
But what was interesting?
You see, it wasn't being ridiculous. I mean, 100 billion. Come on, listener, be on my side here. 100 billion is in the same order of magnitude as 34 billion.
But in August, it was 16 billion. So there's a little bit of tariff difference.
I had no idea. I was just guessing. So.
At the point of September, it had changed at a percentage of 10%. But I'm going to ask you
so it was 10%. Yes.
2019.
Right. Okay.
At 25%, it reached a certain $1 billion value. What do you think it was from America's perspective?
It was 10%.
So 10%. Really putting the squeeze on.
Okay. I'm with you. Now play along at home, folks. It was 34 billion when it was 10%.
Ah, yeah.
Because I don't know the change in the overall trade. But if you're saying that he's gone up to 25%, it's two and a half, approximately two and a half. So I'm going to say now it is going to be 130 billion.
Well, you're getting there. It's 200 billion.
Right,
but the irony is that just a month later, China was doing it at 60 billion US dollars. The point here is tit for tat. The fact is, it's damaging. And what is happening here is as we all know, the two biggest trading nations on the planet loggerheads with one another. This is having an effect on goods and services across the country, across the country, and also across the world.
Now you know this better than me. So my question is, as we're looking at the how it's working out for business and trade, America is a much bigger economy, isn't it, than China? Although China is a big and growing economy. Big. Is it really growing? Well, that's a point of contention. At
the moment, America is growing at 3%,
right.
which is.
I would say, is China growing? I mean, it was growing,
but
hard
to actually really quantify it, and are they really giving the right facts and figures?
Yes, that was really the point behind what I was saying. Yeah. So, would I be right in saying that because America is so much bigger in terms of economy, they're more able to absorb this tariff war, and so therefore, if they play the long game, which, as you say, there'll be a change of president, so you don't know, but if they do play the long game, they'll win.
Well, that's where I would say that this is where China has an upper hand,
right?
Because China's position is, I'm afraid to have to say, that Mr. Xi is there for life. Trump isn't. The long-term game is a long term. It's years, plural. And I don't believe that Trump can play that game for too long. No. He has to have some concessions, because if he was in a situation where too many American jobs were lost or businesses were damaged, that's going to hit him when he goes to the polls, and he can't afford it. Whereas, of course, our friend in China doesn't have to worry about that. So ironically, whilst I agree with you that America is in a very strong trading position, whoever happened to be president, from Mr. Trump's perspective, I'm imagining that he would be thinking of himself as well as his own party, and I would have thought that he won't want too much damage to the economy. Yes. So, and I think we have to bear that in mind. Politics, I know that people don't like it, but the reality is that politics does play a significant part in America, as it does elsewhere. Yeah. I do appreciate that. But I think that this is where we're seeing Trump playing a very clever game. He's giving concessions in the short term. Long term, this is what I think, and this is my prediction here. I think that what Trump will do is that he will probably go to the next summit, still with certain concessions, and once he goes past, and assuming that he becomes again president of the United States, I think he'll change his tack. I think that you'll start to see a different Donald Trump. But at the moment, he's going to be being quite conciliatory, and I think he will be really smoozing to Mr. Xi.
Yes, once he has nothing to lose. Yes, I say that. Yes. Now here's a point I think we should make, as we have a distinctive here on the Market Beat Show, that this is a view from a business and religious point of view. So this law still stands. Deuteronomy 23:20. To a foreigner you may charge interest, but to your brother you shall not charge interest, that the Lord your God may bless you in all that you set your hand to, in the land which you're entering to possess. In other words, you're allowed to put charges on foreigners. It's right for you to try and protect or do well by your own people. It's a competitive market type situation. The same as we don't have a moral problem, at least mainly in the West, of companies competing with each other. Countries should do that too. So the biblical view isn't that there's a moral problem with this per se. The problem would come if he was causing unnecessary suffering by doing it, I guess, and that's what we were talking about. What are the knock-on effects of this? My view is that it's too difficult to work that out. What are the knock-on effects of
Yes.
him raising tariffs? Will we have to wait and see?
Yes. Well, I mean, I think that many people will be questioning about really what a G20 summit will actually really achieve.
Yeah.
I think what you can say is that the coming together of leaders is a positive thing. Some analysts see the fact that there is tariffs on the market is an attempt by the US to contain a powerful Chinese firm such as Huawei. And Trump's decision to allow US companies to, at the moment, seemingly to sell Huawei products, where there may be, for example, there's no real great national security, could continue. But the bottom line is that I think that Trump is playing a short, medium, and long-term game, but both from his own personal point of view as well as the interests of the United States, which is perfectly clear. What actually is really going on within China, I think, is harder to really get down into the detail, because I really think that we don't fully understand what really is the state of the economy, and really how much influence does government have over some of their leading brands?
Yeah.
Many people say that they're independent. I think many people disagree. Well, listeners, what do you think? Do you think that by the next summit, which, well, this will be an interesting one, is going to be held in Saudi Arabia in November 2020? Now, that's going to be a barrel of laughs.
Yes, plenty of barrels, I think. Yeah.
Exactly. What do you think? Do you think that we will possibly be leading to more tariffs, or maybe that you think there's going to be more damage to the economy? Will our economy stagnate and we'll have more problems? Why not log on to Mark and Pete and .com and let us know your thoughts.
Yes,
we'd love to hear from you. There'll be no tariffs on our show, that's for sure. Well, join us next time for more colourful conversations with Clergyman Pete and Businessman Mark.